And I want to say hello to everyone again. This is a channel that is going to talk about truth from fiction, express my opinion about the history of the world. And this will be Passion 9. I want to express the importance of everyone having a thinking that is going to be beneficial to you in the future. And what I want each of you to be thinking about doing is having the thought that you're supposed to have in order to have things happen that are better in our lives. We say that in America, we're the home of the brave and the free, or we're the land of the free because of the brave. We have a lot of sayings in America that talk about freedom and security. And what really makes America different than every other nation on the planet is that we, more than any other nation, exercise competition. That's what makes the capitalist system works. That's what makes our democracy works. That's what makes everything work. We have to keep in mind that one of the top indicators of whether we're doing things right or wrong is whether or not that we have the opportunity for people to compete. No matter what we have, competition is what makes it better. That's all of our sport games are geared to that. All of our different activities are geared to people being better. Now, all of those play to the horsepower engine that I say God has created males to have. So that's a natural inclination for all of us to stretch out and to do better in our life. But what we need to start thinking now is we need to start telling our friends, our children, and everyone around us that we have to start the thinking that is going to improve our situation. And the thing about that is going to be competition. The number one thing we're going to stress here in the video number 9 is competition. That when I say every other economic system is a system of a slave society, that's because the competition is taken out of it. When I tell you that we need to get rid of government employees, when we have government employees and people who think they do represent the government, that is a fraud. No one represents the government. The government of the United States of America are its citizens, the people of America. And when we don't have competition, then we've taken away from the basic premise that made America the great country that it is. Because whether Jefferson and Washington and the other founders of the Constitution were aware of it or not, they did know to split the government into 3 different categories. And without thinking about it, that does not mean that they're really competing with each other. They just were in charge of a separate section. But what makes our economic system work so well is that we have competition. Now, this last week, I just saw an article that was sent to the American Legion, and the American Legion spread it around. And I think the guy's name was Cy Hutchins, and he was talking about Walmart. And he gave an example of how Walmart, through its competitive nature that it had when it started, and utilizing the different economic, mechanical, and financial abilities to utilize and make things more efficient. That's what competition does. Competition makes it more efficient. And what it does is what I said, is that when people put things on the market, they offer you a better product at a more reasonable price. And that is the summary of what competition is about. Now, to be competitive, we have to start understanding what in history has told us that we could repeat it. And I've already gone through the Philistines. I've gone through a lot of the history about how women were equal, and we don't see that. They're still fighting in America for equality. We need to have them equal not only in America, but they need to be equal throughout the world. Because to have the competition that we need, we have to put a total harness on the horsepower attitude of human males to be able to get to the position where they can basically kill what doesn't agree with them. That is their basic attitude. That is the attitude that they have stretched back to all through the last 2,000 years. And that's the same attitude that Putin has today. It's time in the history of America to put that to an end. We were told, as I have said before, in the day the earth stood still, that the writers in Hollywood have told us it's time to stop killing each other. It's time to start making a world where we work out our problems rather than the fighting over our problems. So what we need to do now is to start making it part of our character. This is passion number 9, and passion number 9 has to do with the thinking. It includes people's religious thinking, but all of their thinking, all of their dreams, all of their attitudes. I talked about having a spaceship. I have emotional experiences about having visited other planets of different nature than the planet that we live in. Now, is that a reality? No. It's just a different take on Shakespeare. Shakespeare was a good writer. Shakespeare wrote a lot of stories. He got a lot of people interested in going to his plays and seeing what they had to entertain themselves. And we can entertain ourselves with ideas that can someday become a reality. And the planets that I thought I visited, I only did it vicariously through watching Star Trek. And as we watched Star Trek, that Captain Kirk took us to many different places, and he experienced a lot of different things that they had. Now, one of the things they invented was the transporter. Now, if you've heard the story about the transporter, they had to invent that because a company in Nevada did not provide the ship that needed to be photographed that was going to get the people from the land back up to the spaceship. Now, in the spaceship that I have designed, I don't have a transporter because that's technology that, as far as we know, does not exist. Does it mean that we can't think about it? Yes, we can, because I understand the gentleman that invented the MRI, the magnetic resolution for the human body, came about as a direct result of them experimenting with what Star Trek basically showed as having a medical officer that could check your body and see if there was something wrong with it. Now, is it as complicated as the one on Star Trek? No, but it's a step in the right direction. It helps us to dream and to have an attitude and then start investigating to see what can actually be done. And I've already given you examples of what the Philistines had. They had a world from 4,000 to 8,000 years where women were absolutely equal with the men in the society. Now, that one difference, if nothing else is gleaned from that benefit, it was they had no fighting. If we could put fighting behind us, the killing of one human being by another human being in the past, that will be a giant step forward. What we need to do is start thinking about it. Not only think about it personally, we have to start telling our friends, watch the videos that Mel Phillips has put out for you, and start thinking, this is what we want. Do we want to continue having killing? Not unless you want to be killed. And so far, I've talked to very few people that have indicated any interest for wanting someone else to kill them. So since we don't want to be killed, we don't need to be out killing other people. The only exception for that is to protect yourself from someone else that has let his horsepower engine run amok, and he is out killing people. Do we have those going on all the time? There are accidents daily that probably don't need to be happening. And if we would start training our minds so that we do not allow the attitude of one human being killing another, it is my belief that with that thinking alone, we can now create a society where people stop killing each other. The gentlemen are still killing off their wives. Women are still out picketing all the time for abuse that males do to females every day on this planet. We need to start with a country. If we start with America and we stop the killing here, we can teach the world not only can it be done, but your life will be better. Now, my last video was a lot on our national debt. America could be on the path of destruction. We have several people on the internet that talk about the end of civilization in different places throughout the world. And people have had large cities that have ceased to exist. And most of them, in my opinion, are for economic reasons. And I think one of the reasons America has done so well is economic reasons. And I do believe that because I stated in my video about President Nixon, he started working with China and helped to turn them around so that they would be a more, what we would refer to as a capitalistic society. Now, it is putting some stress on them now because the dictators that want to rule the country have now conflict from people that want total independence. People, when they have a choice, want freedom. And freedom always comes when you have a free society. If you have a free society, people are more free than other times. Now, in every dictatorship, there is freedom. And why do we know that? Well, as I've expressed before, in one of the books that I did read, 1984, we had a society that actually was on the verge of being able to control every single human being's thinking in that society. And when they thought anything against what the society wanted them to believe, they would isolate them. They would find them guilty of violating the rules, and then they would re-indoctrinate them through torture and other ways to make them in agreement with what they wanted them to believe. Now, this is the ultimate form of dictatorship, and it's exactly opposite of what I'm talking about. But it also uses the same principle. If we use the same thing of having the attitude that we can think anything that we want to think, and no one can punish us for our thinking, and they can only interact with us when our thinking we have interferes with the way we treat other people. But the way we want to treat ourselves in our own life, We have the absolute freedom to have control of our own lives, our own body, our own resources, to get out and to create a product that we can put on the market and sell for people. And by products, as I've expressed before, I am now passion and theology advocate. And the reason I've done that is that is a service I will offer. But in offering that service, I also want to study and understand what is it that women think about that keeps us from having the freedom of women being equal today. We have 52% women in America. If all of them would go to the polls and vote on equality, they could outvote the males. So why is it they're not equal? Well, it's because of our thinking. We allow our thing to be stuck on a track that goes around and doesn't deviate. We need to start learning to deviate so that what we tell ourselves and what we think about freedom. We want to tell ourselves we are free. If we're not free, it's my duty to help us identify where we are not free and become involved so we can be more free. We want to be as free as a human being can possibly be. And we will understand that we made a move in the right direction when our women feel like and operate like they're absolutely equal with the other American men. I, in my last video, say we did have a large middle class. I'm going to clarify that. I feel I know why we had the large middle class during the Second World War. And that was because the men were in Europe fighting. The women were in America doing the work that men used to do. Now, I said my mother was the first electrician in our family, but when the war was over, she was told to go back to the kitchen. She was not needed any longer. That, unfortunately, was a mistake on the part of the Americans at that time. We need to correct that mistake now. I am 86 years old. I doubt that my fellow classmates are going to try to sell this, but the people that are 20 to 40 need to listen and start telling it to their friends, telling it to their children, and making it a reality, because it will make you more free. You can make a nation the freedom that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams thought about. They worked hard to make it a reality. They put in their part, and they served the best they could to do that. Now, when I say they served the best, they were limited to 2 terms as a president. George Washington set the bar, saying that it would be a danger to go beyond that. We need to end politicians who are professional politicians. All they are, as I said before, are pigs eating at the public trough. If you've had 2 terms in office, go to any state you're living in and let's start turning it around. I will help applaud the first state that does that, makes a state term limit on any office that anyone can run to, being 2 terms maximum. And when a term in office will put you in public service more than 50% of your life, you're not able to run for that office. We want to start teaching people what it takes to be free. George Washington and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson thought about it. They gave us a good start. It's not our job to drop the baton. It's been passed on to us. It's our job to carry it and pass it on to the generation below us. And that's what I'm doing this for, is to let people know you do have a choice, and the choice is in your thinking. All you have to do is start thinking some of the things I'm saying. You should investigate to see if they're worth believing. If they are worth believing, then start teaching other people to do the same. Now, for my Christian brothers, that's what Christ did for us. He said we need to turn it around. Israel is not going to be the number one nation on the planet. We are going to start serving each other. He described it as an upside-down pyramid. The most important person in life is the one that serves everyone above him. And that is the upside-down pyramid. Now, that is what Christ described for us, and that's what Christians preach. Now, unfortunately, our horsepower engine gets in the way sometimes, and we get tunnel vision, thinking that when we think it, that we know a lot, we know about Christ, therefore it must be right. We need to start clarifying our thinking so even we are aware of it. Our thinking is our attitude, our opinion. Opinions are like snowflakes. Everyone is different, and your opinion is going to be different than your wife's and your children's. And it's up to us to start getting in touch with some of those differences instead of being aggravated about them. With that, I'm going to have to terminate this one, and I will continue on with Passion 10. But for now, I'll have to say goodbye, and I thank you for listening, and I encourage you to go out and teach your fellow friends and neighbors and people you run across the truth as you understand it. And remember the idea of not discussing politics and religion. I want to uphold that thinking. Say, I want to discuss your thinking. Thinking and attitudes and opinions are like snowflakes. Everyone is different. Your opinion is different than every other human being's opinion on the face of the earth. And I just want to explore your opinion so you consider some of the opinions I have and see if you want to modify some of your opinion. Leave other people's religion and their government up to their own attitude and conclusions, but help share your opinion with them. Thank you for coming. If you like my passion talks, I hope you subscribe to my channel and continue coming back. I hope that I want to thank the ones that do come back. I want to thank you for doing that. I hope that you continue to be part of it. I want to thank you for, and I want to say goodbye for now, and I'm going to terminate the video.